What's up, everyone? Jeremy Gerard from Mythic Customs here with one of my short customizing tutorial videos. Today's video is going to be a paint match video. Specifically, what we're paint matching is one of the figures from LegionsCon 2024. So when I got back from LegionsCon this year, I had a ton of toys to open. I had a ton of extra parts to play with. And mixing and matching some pieces, one of the things that I did very early on was what you see right here. Let me bring it right up. This was taking, of course, two of the figures that debuted at LegionsCon this year and mashing them together. So the body that we see here is from the LegionsCon Cosmic Legions Amazing Alien and Creature Creator 2-pack. That was the set that was available on the Sunday. That set comes with two different figures. It's a 2-pack, and one of the figures is what you see here. It's a character called TU5CC Experiment CC-24. It's got that kind of scaly skin, those scaly arms in that like greenish and brown color. As I was playing around with it, I was also looking at the Ninian Infantry, which is that Snake Man that made a surprise appearance in the Four Horsemen store that weekend as well. So the Ninian comes with two heads. It comes with a closed mouth head and an open mouth. So if you get a couple of them so you can display two different looks, you also end up with a couple extra heads. So I thought it'd be a lot of fun to do a paint match and to actually paint match that Ninian snake head to match the CC-24 figure, which is exactly what we're seeing here. So when I posted this, a number of people asked about the paint match, and I said right up front that I'm going to shoot a video to talk about that paint match. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Now, once again, the base figure that we're using is from this set. So this is the LegionsCon exclusive 2-pack. The figure in question is the one that you see on the right here. This is the full 2-pack from LegionsCon with all the extra goodies. This is the particular figure in question we're going to be paint matching, the CC-24. You can see the close-up of that head. We've got some browns, we've got some greens. Really fun paint, like figure to paint match, because it's not so distinct. It's a very organic look, and when you're going for a very organic look, it's also fairly forgiving. It's not like having to paint very clean armor or something where it's got to be very, very clean. It's not trying to paint a flesh tone. There's definitely a lot of variation in this paint application already that we're going to be able to take advantage of. So the figure that I decided to paint match for this tutorial, while I had already done that Ninian before I decided to shoot this video, as part of doing this video and taking these photos, I said, you know what? I'm going to grab another figure, and I grabbed an extra Oleg Thygar head. So Oleg Thygar, of course, he's from the Cosmic Legions first wave, the Valkatar Book 1 wave. So using that figure, he's got the scaly arms as well, but in that blue color. So that's what I decided to start with here. Now, I didn't spray this with a sealer. I didn't start with a base color, anything like that. I'm painting right on top of this blue. And as part of this, I kind of did a bit of a speed paint to see how long that it would take me, and I'll talk about that at the end. But this is what I started with. Now, going to be a couple different colors here. These are the colors I used. I always like to say that this is what worked for me. Certainly not the only way that you could achieve this, but if you want to follow my recipe, this is the way I did it. I like Vallejo paint, so I used two different Vallejo paints to start. One of them was black red. One of them is refractive green. So I started with that black red, and I did a couple coats of that. I wanted to go somewhat light coats on it because I didn't want to glop the paint on too much. I didn't want it to pool up in any of the crevices. This sculpture's got a lot of crevices with the scale, so I didn't want the paint to be too wet to pool up in there. So while I didn't necessarily dry brush this on, I did try to do a couple light coats. Did a first light coat, hit it with a blow dryer to get it nice and dry, did a second coat, and that's what I ended up with to get that coverage. This is just the base layer, so I really wanted to get that brown coverage to then build on top of. Now, this next one, the refractive green, that one I did do some dry brushing. If you don't know what dry brushing is, drying it off on a paper towel. So you can see here the photo that's on the left. You really wipe all of that paint off. You just want, I like to say, the idea of paint or a hint of paint left on that brush. And What that really does is when you start brushing that, when you start dry brushing onto whatever it is you're dry brushing, first off, there's so little paint that you're going to get only the surface parts, the parts that are raised. So any of the crevices or anything like that, if you're painting any kind of part, you're really not going to get that with dry brushing. It gets a lot of the exposed, raised pieces. I also love dry brushing in something like this because even though I'm going for pretty much full coverage, I want to be able to build that paint on slowly. So that's what I did here. You can see the result of a couple coats of dry brushing of that refractive green. You can see that the photo on the right. Next, I wanted to add a little bit of the browner here, a lighter brown. So I already did that black red, which black red ended up kind of making a brownish color to start with. This is another Vallejo color called brown sand. And if you don't have these exact colors, there's a lot of different colors here. You may not want to go out and have to buy all of these. These things do get somewhat expensive. Getting something colors that are similar to this will do the job for you as well. Again, we've got a little bit of flexibility here. Using this brown sand color, I also dry brushed this on, and you can see the result of that on the right. So we got the brown there, we've got some of that green, and now this lighter brown is really starting to bring out some of those details and add some of those really interesting colors that we see in the final version of CC-24. Next, I did buff. So I love using this color buff for stuff like teeth and horns. So that's what I wanted to do here. Because if you look at the CC-24 head, which is actually right in the foreground, you can see it there. He's got, kind of those horns that come out from, his cheeks, essentially. I wanted to do that on the thigh guard head for his horns and for the pieces that go in back. So that's what I did here. I just painted those on. This was not dry brushing, was just a fine brush getting that on there. A couple nice coats to get it nice and smooth. It's a little too clean, so I'm going to add a wash to that after, but this is where we started with that. So a couple different paints. Between all of these, because I was doing a speed paint, I was hitting this with a blow dryer every single time. Certainly, if you want to take your time, you don't have to rush through this. You could put a coat on and let it dry naturally. Because I wanted to get through these to take these photos, to do this video, I was going a little bit faster. Next, black. So I want to do the eyes in black. You can paint the eyes any color you really want. For me, I thought black would look cool. So just some straight black paint, very fine tip brush to get those pupils, those eyes nice and black. Next thing I did was some gloss varnish. Now, I've done a video in the past about using like an old Model Masters type bottle that I would use to add gloss to things. That product is no longer produced. While I do still have some of it, that Model Master stuff, I find that it's really damaging if you don't wait like a full 24 hours. So this is another product that I've been using lately for things like this, for like eyes and stuff. This is a Vallejo product, and it's just some gloss varnish. So what I did here was I just took very, very little tiny bit, and I just, after those eyes were nice and dry, then I got with the blow dryer, I just painted it with this little varnish to get that nice shiny look. Next, I was just looking for another brown. I just wanted some variation, specifically in the nose area. I wanted that nose area. If you look at the actual head, it's got some different colors in there. So I just wanted a little bit right in the front of the face. I just looked in my paint trays to see what I had. This is an army paints, something that I acquired at some point. Again, cool paint, very similar to Vallejo and stuff. A little bit of dry brushing just to bring out some of those textures. This is the part where you're going to kind of play around a little bit. Those earlier paints, I strongly suggest something similar, but you can play around with some other colors here, some different browns to get the color variation that you want. What I also did with this was I took this and I watered it down. I took a brown paint and I watered it down. I wanted to do a wash. So you can see when I painted the buff on the horns earlier and it was nice and clean, this is me taking a little bit darker brown, and literally any dark brown will do, because you're putting a dab of dark brown in your paint tray, and then you're putting some water because you want this to be very, very washed out. I hit that, the wash, I hit that really watered down brown. Again, this is like the exact opposite of dry brushing, right? Instead of paint on your brush that you dry off. This is a paint and water mixture that's barely paint at that point. I'm not painting joints or anything like that that's moving. This was really, really simple to paint. I mean, really that first step where you're covering it in the brown paint, that's the one that took the longest because that's the one that wasn't dry brushing at all. So that one with the blow dryer was a little bit more time to dry. When you're doing dry brushing, you're putting on soap paint, it almost dries immediately anyway. When you introduce the blow dryer into it, it goes very, very fast. So I had a handful of brushes. There's my paint tray. I went through all the paints. 8 minutes start to finish is what it took me for this. So when you apply that, even if you take some time between it, the point is this is not a large investment of time to get a result like this. So this is the final result of the Thigh-Gar head that I painted to match this particular figure. There are some like grays more in the neck that I elected not to do because the head didn't really seem to have those grays, so I followed that. But very simple, step-by-step kind of tutorial here to achieve this. Here's a couple other photos that you can see of this. You can see the details on top. Again, I love this type of a project because it is so incredibly forgiving. Because this is such an organic type piece, you can look at the top of that head and those paints are not really evenly applied, yet it looks natural because things in nature have some differentiation. That's what makes them interesting, right? Now, once again, the figure that I used to do this is from the LegionsCon Cosmic Legions 2-pack. If you weren't at LegionsCon and you are still looking for those 2-packs, they are actually available right now at Big Bad Toy Store, or I say right now, at least as I'm recording this video, they're available at Big Bad Toy Store. No telling when you're going to watch this video, whether they will still be available. Big Bad Toy Store is a partner of Vateri Productions and LegionsCon for after-event figures. If you can't make it to the show and you still want these, that's your source to get them. And of course, if you want to get it, if you want to create a custom like this, whether you're painting a Ninian head, whether you're painting a Thigh-Gar head, that's what you're going to do. Follow these steps. Until next time, I can't wait to see what you make.